Welcome back, world, to the Mic Check Podcast. You are now in the booth with Quinton, a.k.a. Right on Cue. And today's topic we will be talking about is what strategies will work or be successful for Errol Spence to beat Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence obviously announced just over a month ago that they will be fighting in one of the most anticipated boxing matches in the last few years in boxing. Obviously, it's one of the top fights that's going to happen in the year of 2023. That fight is going to be happening July 29th in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena on Showtime pay-per-view. So let's get into the topic. What things can Spence do to beat Terence Crawford? Well, everybody knows, if you've watched any of Terence Crawford's fights in the last few years, that typically Terence is a little bit of a slow starter. He usually likes to use the first couple of rounds to gauge distance, figure out what his opponent is doing, try to get a rhythm and a kind of just an idea of what his opponent will be doing in the fight, to then give himself a better chance to counter, because that's certainly something that he loves to do in fights. Catch and counter, slip and counter, as well as use his legs, his great movement to make guys miss. Spence is going to have to come out fast in this fight. I really don't see a way that he comes out slow and he can be successful late. Spence has typically been a guy who likes to also gauge his opponent in the early rounds, but I don't think that he will be able to afford to do that in this fight. Obviously, as the bigger guy, Spence will be able to have an advantage, I believe, on the inside, but obviously he's going to have to get there. He's going to have to avoid big looping and countering shots from Terence Crawford to get to that space. Spence has always been a guy who was better on the inside than on the outside, in my opinion. While Spence does have a good, strong outside jab, he really is he prefers to be on the inside. He prefers to do his work in close quarters, mid-range to inside. And that's obviously where he'll have an advantage against Terence Crawford, who will come into this fight as the slightly smaller man. Now, there is a huge debate going on right now about whether or not Terence Crawford actually has a reach advantage. And that is something that we'll be able to see a little bit closer once there's a weigh-in and maybe there's even some official measurements being taken. But as it stands currently, Terence Crawford is being listed with a 78-inch reach, while Spence has a 76-inch reach, even though Spence is listed at being just over an inch and a half taller than Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford being 5'8" and Spence being 5'9.5". There's obviously a height difference there, but typically in boxing matches, especially at the elite level, an inch or two is not a huge difference maker, but an inch or two can certainly make a difference. So obviously Spence is going to need to try to get off to a fast start, win some of the early rounds, and then force Terence Crawford to have to be more of the aggressor in the middle rounds, as opposed to being the counter puncher. Terence Crawford is a guy who likes to sit on counters. He likes to place his shots and be selective. But if Spence can win the first maybe 2, 3, or 4 rounds, then that's going to put Terence Crawford in a position where he's going to have to be the aggressor. He's going to have to step to Spence. And then obviously that can play into a role where Spence and him can fight in a phone booth. So obviously that's going to be one of the things he'll need to do. A second thing that Spence will need to do is he will need to have a consistent body attack. I mentioned earlier that Terence Crawford has a great set of legs. And that's something that he utilizes not only to create angles to let shots go, but it's also a way that he takes breaks in fights. He's able to catch his breath, and he's able to make his opponent chase him around using up their energy. So being able to get to Terence Crawford's body is something that can slow down his legs, something that can make him less effective at moving around the ring late in the fight, and could possibly play into Spence's hands if he wants to get a late stoppage. So going to the body is going to be key, and Spence is a prolific body puncher, but as I mentioned previously, that from the outside. He does most of that body work from the inside. He's not a guy that throws the jab to the body a whole lot. He's not a guy that throws the straight left hand to the body a whole lot, a la Floyd Mayweather or a la Dimitri Bivol. So obviously those two guys are more pure boxers than Errol Spence, and that's why they typically do some good body work from the outside. Errol Spence is more of your boxer, puncher, pressure fighter kind of style. And then the third and last thing I think that Spence really has to be able to do is get Terence up against the ropes and get him to stop moving at points so that he can really let go of multiple combinations. If Spence is only limited to 1, 2, or 3 punches at a time, I don't see a way that he can consistently, accumulate damage on Terence Crawford because there's really only been a few times that Terence has been rocked by one punch, a single punch at a time. Now, Egis Kalviaskis did hurt Terence Crawford in their matchup over a year ago, but that's because Egis is he's not a counter puncher. He's a great combination puncher. And he's a guy that puts a lot of punches together in his pressure style. And that's something that Spence is definitely going to have to do if he wants to be successful at becoming the first 4-belt undisputed world champion in over a decade. You guys let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about my thoughts on what Errol Spence will need to do in order to win this fight, and what things you think that Terence Crawford will do to try to avoid some of those things that Spence may employ in this fight. As always, you guys keep it locked here. T and I will continue to give you guys as much feedback, footage, as well as some content as possible. Make sure you comment, share, like, and subscribe to this channel. Share this video, and obviously give your comment thoughts in the box below. We appreciate the time, and you guys, as always, stay blessed. Peace.